My apologies for whatever's going on with my internet service provider. It's really beyond irritating and annoying. So let's try to do some news here because I did sign up to do the news. We'll do the quick advents calendar for those, give people a chance to show up here. Let's get to today, December 6th. It happens to be Finland National Day today, by the way, folks. Finland National Day. This is really, where the hell is 6 at? 22. There's 6 up at the top. Okay. There we go. That is a bow. It's a little chocolate bow. I get in front of the camera there. There's a little bow. So there's the Hello Kitty one. That's down. Okay. While I'm at it here, I can charge another phone since I can't charge this one. Okay. Actually, I need to do that. That's what I need to do. Yeah, let me do that. Okay. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. So then let's get with the Aldi one. So this is going to be the 6th on this one. It's up the top as well. Seems to be a trend here. And that's a stocking with little gifts in it. There you go. Stocking with little gifts in it. Okay, I hope the sound is okay. It's for the 8 people who managed to find their way here. Let's go with the Lidl now. Is the 6 also at the top here? No, it's not. So, excuse me. 7, 17, 22. There's 6 in the middle. Okay. Okay, that one is, I guess it's a nut. It's a nut. Okay. 3 chocolates. Let's get to the tea. And hopefully got better tea. The last couple of days it sucks. Okay, 6. Today's the 6th. Let's get that one. Well, that's the first one that actually came out the way it's supposed to. Vanilla chai black tea. That one sounds kind of good. Vanilla chai black tea. 2 of those. Okay, that takes care of the tea advents calendar. All our advents calendars for today. Okay. So, and here the show can go on, says Charles. Thank you for that. Okay, folks, we were talking about the hearing. I'll get back to the hearing a little bit later on. I can't show you the video from here. If I try to play in the background, who knows? Now, here's the thing. I'm running off my mobile network on my, or off my Wi-Fi. Whereas every day, my data connection, the phone condenses it. You don't get nearly the high quality out of the phone that you get out of the computer. And I can't reduce the quality of that while I'm broadcasting. So I don't know what to say and do about it other than I'm very irritated. These people are really pissing me off. So I'm going to do a test real quick and see. They're telling me I'm getting all the download speed in the world, but I'm not getting any upload speed. So anyway, yeah, but I'm using the mobile, which takes less resources. So that's why we can chat right now. So I'll get to the news, and it's going to be a little different today. No screens. I'll just be giving the news and commenting on it as we go along. So hopefully you have the patience to accept that as my form of news today and stick with me since we had 3 times as many people a few minutes ago. Oh, now the pricks are giving me 18, 19 megabytes per second. This is just pure bullshit. I mean, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm not being screwed with here. Actually beginning to wonder if I'm not being screwed with here because this is just nonsense. Hey, now, well, I have to wear the glasses in order to read your chat. So let me put the glasses on. Apologize for that because it's so close to my eyes. I can't read the chat up that close. So yeah, clearly their problem. Yeah, Charles, it is. Yep, it's clearly their problem. So, and they just won't. It's just really irritating. Anyway, so South African Airways pilots have gone on strike. 60% of their flights have been canceled, and a parliamentary committee is forced to stop a trip as a consequence of it because they rely on South African Airways. Well, you should rely on someone more reliable. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development was canceled its oversight visit to the South African Human Rights Commission owing to the pilot strike. Well, nothing is going to be missed by not having a meeting with the South African Human Rights Commission. It's an illegitimate organization that has abused its charter to attack minority South Africans. So I think that nothing is really missed. They said we wish to profusely apologize to all who are inconvenienced by the action. As a committee, we feel encouraged by the reality that the oversight program of the South African Human Rights Commission head office remains part of the committee's agenda. It does not fall away. Well, you're not performing oversight. You're allowing the South African Human Rights Commission to target minorities illegitimately. The whole case with Ronaldo Khoes is just a good example of their selective prosecution. Utter nonsense. Yeah, Pablo says, I believe the channel's under attack. Pablo, it's been going on the entire time I've done this channel. Other people, they get no buffering. They have no problems watching my broadcast in South Africa, or have no problem watching other channels, but it's always mine. Yeah, the South African Human Rights Commission does the exact opposite of what it's supposed to do. Well, Fikile Mbalula has trashed discussion about a national shutdown demanding Ramaphosa's resignation. This comes in the aftermath of comments about Nigeria. Now, I watched Citizen Concerned earlier, a little bit of her video, and wow, is that incredibly xenophobic, anti-foreigner, anti-Nigerian, bigoted to say the least. I've never said anything bad about Citizen Concerned, but wow, 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 wow. She really unloads in a action essay, Herman Mashaba like fashion on Nigerians. Really, really, as if all 208 million Nigerians are evil people. Wow. There are a lot of stupid people in South Africa, but not 63 million stupid people. I've never claimed there were 63 million stupid people in South Africa. But to see that nonsense, Citizen Concern made a video about this. Now, it all stems from Ramaphosa. I'm trying to find the video in which he was doing a press conference, or he's talking, or I don't know, he's talking to Nigerians, and he says, the requirement for Nigerians to present a passport, a visa application is no longer the case. Now you can apply for a visa without your passport. And people have lost their minds, incorrectly, including Citizens Concerned, incorrectly assuming that that means you can just come to the country. No, it doesn't. They still have to provide a certified copy of course, we know in Nigeria, anything can be certified in 5 seconds at a corner shop, but a certified copy of your passport for the application. But then in order to be issued a passport, you must surrender a genuine passport, which will be checked against records. So I'm not really sure why people lost their minds, but he did go on to talk about he wanted Nigerian goods in South African shops. Now that's interesting. Why do you need Nigerian goods? What's wrong with South African goods? I think it's a very stupid statement. I agree with Citizen Concerned on this, but people are calling for a national shutdown and the resignation of Ramaphosa. His announcement that qualifying Nigerian businesses would be granted a 5-year multiple entry visa to simplify trade sparked outrage, with many calling for his resignation. Mabalula defended Ramaphosa, describing the calls for his resignation as a failed attempt to sow chaos. Well, it says the ANC remains resolute in defending South Africa's sovereignty, uplifting its people, and ensuring the country is a home for all who respect its laws and contribute positively to its growth. Anyway, so that's a whole crisis going on now. It's unnecessary. Meanwhile, McKinsey, the consulting agency here in the United States, has paid $122 million to settle a South African bribery case. The global consultancy was accused of bribing foreign government officials from the ANC. A former senior partner pled guilty to a conspiracy charge. So, the fine was announced yesterday, was part of a deferred prosecution agreement that would dismiss the bribery charge against the company after 3 years if McKinsey meets conditions of the deal. Separately, a former McKinsey senior partner, Vikas Sagar, who was a leader in the Johannesburg office, pled guilty to conspiring to violate an anti-corruption law. So, this story does not tell us which ANC officials were bribed from Eskom and Transnet. McKinsey participated in a years-long scheme to bribe government officials in South Africa and unlawfully obtained a series of highly lucrative consulting engagements that netted McKinsey $85 million in profits, said Damian Williams, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. The New York Times published a 2018 investigation into their contracts in South Africa. So, McKinsey's worked for 2 South African companies, Eskom, the power company, and Transnet, the freight rail company, at one point brought in almost half the Johannesburg office's revenue. So who was bribed? Why was this not disclosed in this case? Mr. Sagar, a native of India and a graduate of the University of Michigan and the Wharton Business School, was responsible for winning some of the biggest contracts in McKinsey's South African office. Known for his showy, larger-than-life personality, Mr. Sagar drove a Porsche, carried a Louis Vuitton briefcase, and once ended a long business meeting by dancing on top of a conference table. The 56-year-old pled guilty in December 2022 to conspiring to violate the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. The announcement did not say whether he was been sentenced. So, ladies and gentlemen, while South Africa will not prosecute and imprison people for the state capture, we are doing it in America. We have prosecuted someone and will incarcerate them now for their role in state capture. While the authorities in South Africa are unwilling or incapable of actually following through and prosecuting criminals, we will do so because we have a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. This is why we work at a severe disadvantage to the Chinese communists and why we work at a severe disadvantage to Russians, Ukrainians, and Ethiopians and all these other people around the world who can commit criminal acts abroad, bribing officials, particularly the Chinese, while if we do it, we get prosecuted by our own courts in our own country. So, Mr. Sagar is being prosecuted. Now, South Africa won't do anything. Trust me, Charles, they'll do nothing. Meanwhile, in Durban, also known lovingly as Durban in KwaZulu-Natal, E. coli has once again outbroke on the beach. Yep, the city assures that its beaches will all be open by next weekend, but an E. coli outbreak has shut down several beaches. Wow. Acting Mayor Maud Lala said that temporary beach closures will be reopened soon. More than 10 beaches were briefly closed to bathers owing to high levels of the bacteria found in human feces, although 8 have since been reported. Yeah, so you want to clean up the beaches of Durban? Here's a real good way to stop it. Stop shitting on your beaches. Stop dumping your effluent into the rivers. Stop dumping your feces into the water in the ocean. That'll stop it. That'll stop it. Yep. Well, Spaza shop owners are complaining that the registration deadline is simply too short. And I would agree 100%. 21 days to register 2 million businesses is ridiculous. It's an attempt to shut down the informal economy. Instead of shutting down the informal economy, South African authorities should be looking at actually regulating, taxing, and incorporating the informal economy. That's what they should be doing, not shutting it down. Spaza shop owners say the registration deadline is too stringent, according to a Business Day news article. With just a week remaining before the shop registration deadline, frustration is growing among shop owners who are struggling with the strict regulatory requirements and excessive red tape. Many have described the process as unworkable. Well, it sounds like any other process in South Africa for administrative work. It's unworkable. Ramaphosa ordered the registration of Spaza shops last month in response to a crisis of foodborne illnesses, which had killed more than 20 children. But, of course, the South African authorities are not up to the task of actually performing this mission. The Mark Lifman murder, the story that got me a lot of views recently. Police have seized firearms at a Cape Town security firm after they raided PPA. Less than a week before the accused hitmen in the murder of underworld figure Mark Lifman appear in court, a heavily armed police convoy raided the office of security company Professional Protection Alternatives near Pardon Island in Cape Town. Now, I've talked about this story previously and reported on this. So that's from the News 24. The Daily Maverick says the PPA raid, they seized guns in this case. At about 10:30 yesterday, December 5th, 2024, a convoy of SAPS officers arrived in marked anti-gang vans and others in unmarked white vehicle as Professional Protection Alternatives. Yep, they seized weapons there apparently. Lifman was shot dead just over a month ago, November 3rd, outside of a shopping center. Sections of the Pretoria East Hospital go up in flames. Another hospital in South Africa on fire. What is going on in South Africa? Sections of Pretoria East Hospital declared safe for patients after a fire is contained. The City of Tshwane Emergency Services Department said no injuries or fatalities were reported during firefighting operations after a fire broke out at the Net Care Pretoria East Hospital last night. Emergency service received a call at 6:59 in the evening, dispatched the nearest fire station to the incident. On arrival, a preliminary report given the Emergency Communications Center was the Eastern Hospital building was well alit and certain parts of the roof had collapsed. The roof had solar panels and certain parts were on fire. Solar panels and a roof on fire. The roof is on fire. We ain't gonna let the mother effer. Remember that song? God, the roof is on fire. Yeah, wasn't it a Vodacom office in Cape Town that got torched? Century City. Anyway, yeah, so the roof was on fire. Well, honey, real honey, folks. I think Garrett will like this story. A sting has been launched to get fake honey off the shelves. Now, the problem I have with this story from News 24 is it's not fake honey. It's a honey alternative. And people are being hoodwinked because they are either uninformed or too lazy to read the label. And so it's not actually fake honey. The Director of Inspection Services within the Department of Agriculture, which John Steenhuisen runs, is conducting a national inspection of retail stores to remove fake honey projects from South African store shelves, except it's not fake honey. In a media statement this week, the department said it received increased complaints about products labeled as honey-based syrup. Honey-based syrup is exactly what it claims to be, honey-based syrup. It is a watered-down version of honey. It's not fully honey. It's not 100% honey. You should only buy 100% pure natural honey if you want honey. If you buy a honey alternative, that doesn't make it fake. And this is government officials who are not bright, who are distorting the marketplace. People who have less income and can't afford a proper honey product can buy this honey-based syrup. The department is concerned these products have detrimental health effects on consumers who assume they're buying honey, a natural product produced by bees with anti-inflammatory properties, but are actually purchasing syrup, often by dissolving sugar in water. But the thing is, folks, very few people are buying honey for medicinal purposes. Very few people are using honey by medicinal purposes. If they're using syrup with honey, then that is illegal. But if it is labeled as honey-based syrup, that is not a crime. See, this is either a lazy journalist or dumb people in the Department of Agriculture. I suspect that it is a lazy journalist. Yeah, so who is the journalist in this case? William Braderoda. Or maybe he's just getting bad information. I don't know. But if it's labeled as 100% pure natural honey and it's not, then that's a crime, and that needs to be dealt with. But if it is honey-based syrup, there's nothing wrong with that. So, in the University of Cape Town Post published earlier this year, Dr. Yannis Delport, an expert in mesopaleontology, the study of pollen and honey, explained the vast majority of honey products in South Africa are now imported. They're no longer produced domestically. Imported honey accounted for 65% of the South African market back in 2010. But by 2021, 86% of honey in South Africa was imported. Wow. It's not called honey, Nick. It's called honey-based syrup. Honey used as an adjective, not as a noun. This is the problem for people who don't speak English. If half the stuff on the shelves represent 100% honey, then that's a huge problem. So there you go. Then people are committing fraud. Then go after the fraudsters. But don't claim that the label on something as honey-based syrup is wrong and that's the problem. That's not the problem. Counterfeit honey is the problem. These counterfeit honeys are usually cheaper than authentic ones because of how they're produced. Yep, there you go. So anyway. Authorities visited 40 stores in the province and seized 1,059 products labeled honey-based syrup. The authorities also seized 388 products labeled as honey that were determined to be in violation of labeling. Now, there is a concern. 388 products, that's only 1/3, not 50%. 2 wholesalers were issued 1,500 rand fines for breaching regulations. So, 388 products labeled as honey that were not honey. Now, that's a violation of labeling requirements, so that's a crime. Yep, there's a distinction here, folks. Let's be straight on. Yeah, most South Africans can't read. Neville, you have a fair point. Yes, Garrett, we know your honey is in the States. Meerkat used to drink it for a cough when I was a kid. Okay. The clampdown on the honey producers for that very issue. I have no problem if they say honey flavored syrup. Yeah, exactly. The problem is that people aren't reading it. So this is a misleading story. That's not a problem. Seizing those products is incorrect unless they're using some sort of illegal additive that endangers people. By the way, this phone is on my tripod, which is too short to reach up high enough, and I'm slumped down a little bit here so you get a good view behind me. But on top of 3 other books, I have the Garden of Babylon Storm. So the book that is holding this up, because I need a book that had a wider surface to it. So for the tripod, because regular books aren't quite wide enough. So Babylon Storm is holding up this broadcast. Chris Hani's killer, Yanis Wallace, will be deported to Poland after 2 years of parole. Yep. Government announces that Wallace, who was paroled in 2022, will be sent back to his home country today. Yep. He will be handed over to the Department of Home Affairs for deportation. The handover and deportation are overseen by the National Joint Operational Intelligence Structure after cabinet briefing earlier this week. He'll likely be greeted as a hero in Poland because of their anti-communist stance and the fact that he murdered a communist. Yeah, while unrepentant racists and right-wingers in South Africa and Poland may view Wallace as a hero, he is a convicted assassin who sought to defend the perpetration of the racist regime of apartheid and its social relations. This must be considered a warning. Hani will live forever in our hearts and in the program of the South African Communist Party. Well, Amy Beale will live forever in our hearts, and the racist scumbag black supremacists who pummeled her to death with rocks and cinder blocks in the Cape Flats, and then were pardoned and released from prison and didn't spend their entire life in prison, and now those who still survive live a perfectly normal life. We will never forget Amy Beale, you scumbag communist. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Basic Education, through the fiscal 23-24 year, which was under the control of the African National Congress, now we're in a new fiscal year, there's a new government, and the Democratic Alliance, Siviwe Garuba, is in charge of that department. But that department was run by the ANC. And that department budgeted, planned, designed, constructed, and built how many new schools for South Africa's tens of millions of children? How many in this fiscal year? Does anybody know how many schools they built? 100, 1,000, 500, 20, 50, 75, 275? How many schools did the Basic Department of Education construct in the fiscal year 2023-2024? Anybody want to guess? Garrett's made a guess. That's a pretty wild guess. Yeah. Anyone else want to guess? How many schools did they construct? The Department of Basic Education built only one school this year, leaving critical infrastructure backlogs unaddressed in Eastern Cape and Limpopo, blaming budget cuts, mismanagement, and capacity issues that continue to undermine efforts to improve school conditions. While overcrowded classrooms and pit latrines remain norm in many areas, experts warn without urgent intervention, achieving the 2030 infrastructure goals are unlikely. They will not be achieved. They will not be achieved unless they're lowered. They will not be achieved. It represents a substantial decline from just a decade ago when the 2014-2015 fiscal year, they completed 32 schools in the Eastern Cape, 24 in Gauteng, 19 in Mpumalanga, 12 in KZN, and 13 in Limpopo. But ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear. The reason the Department of Basic Education didn't build 32, 56, 75, 87, the reason that the Department of Basic Education didn't build 100 schools across 5 different provinces this year and built a single school is there's only 2 reasons for this. Are you ready for it? There's 2 reasons why. Well, 3 reasons. 3 reasons why the Department of Basic Education under complete control of a majority black government, a majority black ANC, of a racist, trolling, communist-inspired ANC, only built 1 school this year. There are 2 reasons. So they have 2 reasons for building 1 school. Do you know what they are? I can tell you. Well, it's actually 3. There's 3. First, there's Jan van Riebeck. He's responsible. Then there's the system of apartheid, which is responsible for preventing them from building 99 schools they were able to build 10 years ago in a single year. And then finally, systemic racism. That's why. Systemic racism, Jan van Riebeck, and apartheid. That's why they can't build schools. That's why. The South African Rugby Union has foolishly rejected the cash infusion offered by the Ackerley Sports Group, the group that owns the Seattle Kraken and the Seattle Seawolves of Major League Rugby and a number of other franchises out there. They foolishly turned this down. South African Rugby Union President Mark Alexander said that this deal was shut down. 7 of the 13 SARU member unions with voting rights opposed the proposal, which meant that it didn't hit the 75% threshold to approve the deal. The ASG, that sports group, was willing to invest $75 million, 1.35 billion rand, for 20% of SARU's commercial rights company. So they only wanted a 1/5 stake, and they were going to give $75 million, which means that they were valuing the Springbok commercial unit, not the team, but the commercial unit, as worth over $300 million. And these people didn't want $75 million. They do have an exclusivity agreement in place for the rest of the year, so they could up that. Cannot get a local child in our local school. Children bussed in by taxi by the boatload. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, turning our attention from South Africa to neighboring Namibia, where a incompetent, potentially corrupt, and certainly illegitimate election has just taken place that has returned SWAPO to power. And Triple N is now the new president, according to this corrupt result from the Electoral Commission of Namibia. This will be challenged in court. The president, who is part of the old guard, claims that there will be a radical shift under her presidency. But why wasn't she a proponent for the things she's talking about now for the past 20 years when she served in government? Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah was elected Namibia's first woman president with 57% of the vote, according to the ECN. Yeah, her second place candidate was from the IPC, getting just 25.5%. As a woman, I'm the first to admit that my election to the highest office in the land is definitely one that is breaking the glass ceiling for a Namibian woman, she told reporters. The 72-year-old became the first woman to rule the mineral-rich nation governed by Southwest Africa People's Organization since independence from 1990. She said, "For me, it's just to reaffirm that equal responsibility of women and men in society is a reality." Well, it should be. It should be. Yeah, she took time to thank Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Johnson, who was the first female head of state when she took over in Liberia, talking about how she set the path. She's the daughter of an Anglican pastor and has been the vice president since February of this year. She appeared without a traditional dolk head wrap and stressed that her victory gave her and SWAPO the constitutional and moral legitimacy to govern. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of voters gave up voting after waiting 12 hours in intense heat and voting papers not being there, the tablets melting down and not functioning, and then the corrupt Electoral Commission of Namibia extending voting in SWAPO regions and strongholds on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but not extending those voting areas in the south or center of the country or along the coast where others are at. So Namibia's election is very much in question. Now, she said there will be drastic change, which is hardly credible given where she's coming from. She says it's not going to be business as usual. We must have a radical shift in addressing the plight of our people, especially the downtrodden and vulnerable communities. She takes her oath on March 21st of 2025. She's been in government since 2000, but she's refused to blame the Electoral Commission when asked about its management of the vote, saying the authority had brought the process to a conclusion. Yeah. While the turnout exceeded the previous presidential vote, it was particularly unequal. In the northern regions of Wango and Umbusadi, historic Swapo strongholds where NNN performed best with nearly 80 to 83% of the ballot, voter turnout was 91 and 92%, much higher than the rest of the country, which raises very serious questions about the legitimacy of the election. Densely populated Comas region, which encompasses Windhoek, where electoral failings were recorded, only 67% of voters cast their ballot. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an illegitimate result. It is a corrupt race. It is a corrupt result in Namibia, and it must be overturned. Where is SADC? Where are SADC observers when they need to be out there? Where are they at? Well, Ghana holds an election on December 7th, national elections, and it pits former President John Mahama against the ruling party candidate Mahamudu Bawumia. If Mahama wins, he'll be back in office and hoping to improve a $30 billion external debt the country has amassed in his absence. Yep. Since 1992, when democracy returned to Ghana, it's been ruled by simply two parties, the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party. And that is unlikely to change. So we'll see what happens there. Next is all due respect. I think Sarah made a good choice. My Springbok Heartbreaking, Scott Berger, and Rupert Word Talks, if memory serves. Well, there's a collection of financial companies that are in talks to purchase a stake. So what's the problem with a South African living in America buying 20% equity when they have made all these other sports franchises incredibly profitable and successful? They paid $1.2 billion to get a franchise in Seattle for the Seattle Kraken, and it's doing just amazing. So, no, there's no disrespect, Nick. I just don't understand your point. The clubs went down this route and regret it now. Yeah, no, Charles, that's no. See, you're comparing apples and oranges. You're talking about the Sharks. The Sharks are the only club that went down this route, and the Sharks deal was a stupid deal. A stupid deal. It was a stupid deal. That's on the Sharks. Anyway, hundreds of people in Chad protest the French military presence in the country. Hundreds of people marched in Chad on Friday to call for the withdrawal of French troops in the country, a week after the Central African country ended a military agreement with its former colonial ruler. Sierra Leone begins a nationwide rollout of the Ebola vaccine, developed, of course, by the West. Authorities in Sierra Leone on Thursday started the nationwide rollout of a single-dose Ebola vaccine, the first such campaign in West Africa. Yeah, this is the region where the 2014 outbreak occurred in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. Yep, there was no approved vaccine prior to the 2014 outbreak, where there were 28,000 cases reported in Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. So, once again, those evil white people delivering vaccines to Africans with no gratitude. Erica, there's nothing new today. Everything that's there was there yesterday. So, Iran has claimed to have launched a successful space mission. U.S. intelligence says Iran's work on space launches and rockets would shorten the time it needs to produce intercontinental ballistic missiles. Of course, that's correct. Iranian state television said 3 rockets were launched: the Shaman-1 module, a small CubeSat satellite, and a research payload into space from Iman Komani spaceport. All 3 were successfully placed in an elliptical orbit with a high point of 410 kilometers and a low point of 300 kilometers. There you go. So now we got the Iranians launching stuff into space, more space debris. Shalom Nagar, the man who was the executioner for Adolf Eichmann, has passed away in his 80s. Speaking of the HAs, a similar kind of deal. I believe Bucks are successful enough to make money of their own, seeing a proper manager. I don't disagree with that, Charles, but the Springboks are obsessed with race and obsessed with pilferage, and so until they get rid of Mark Alexander and get someone proper in there, they're never going to be a profitable thing. I mean, look at the All Blacks; they're incredibly profitable. They took an equity deal, and now they're making money hand over fist. So even though they're not winning, So, whatever. You guys can take whatever position you want on this. I'm not in favor of a deal. I'm just saying that the dismissal of it was short-sighted. South African Rugby Union is bankrupt, has no money, and barely survives. It's surviving on gifts. The Western Province Rugby Union is also bankrupt and has been in receivership for years. Exactly, Charles. They'll pilfer the money. But they won't pilfer what ASG puts in because ASG will watch it. But if it's South African investors, they'll pilfer it and they'll get away with it because they'll say it's equity. They'll say that it's historically disadvantaged. That's what they'll say. But Shalom Nagar has passed away. He was the hangman chosen to carry out the sentence on the fugitive Nazi war criminal back in 1960s, in the only case ever of capital punishment in Israel. Now, when he was handed the job, he's a Yemeni Jew, a Yemenite Jew who, when his father had died as a youth, he trekked on foot from Yemen to Israel after it became a country in the 1940s, grew up there. Sharks are not highly successful and run like a business. No, they're a disaster, an absolute disaster. Yep. The Bulls, yes, I agree. So, excuse me. Anyway, Eichmann was abducted from South America and taken back to Israel, where he was tried. So they brought Mr. Nagar in to be the executioner, the one who released the trapdoor so that Eichmann would hang and then remove his body. And he initially refused. He had not been part of the Holocaust. He had grown up in Yemen and then in Israel. And so they showed him footage of what happened during the Holocaust to convince him to do it, and he did it. They wanted someone that was not part of the Holocaust to be the executioner. Thousands are fleeing Syria's Homs as opposition forces close in. Fighters led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham armed group are near the outskirts of Homs, according to Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. It's getting desperate. I wish I could show you the map. I have a map up here to show you the territorial gain, but unfortunately I can't because we can't do a proper broadcast. But the rebels are really going quickly. They have taken over Aleppo, they've got Hama, and they're advancing south. They are really spreading their control. Unbelievable. After being pinned in for years. Melbourne synagogue has been torched, extensive damage, suspected arson. Synagogue in Melbourne, Australia suffered serious damage in a suspected arson attack this morning. A witness who was attending prayers at the Adas Israel synagogue in the Rupenlia suburb injured his hand. Two suspects were at large. Describing the incident as a deliberate lit fire. So anti-Semitism is alive and well in Australia. So they don't just hate Christians and whites, they also hate Jews. A Romanian court has suspended or annulled this weekend's runoff presidential election because a conservative, ultra-right conservative, is a candidate. The decision comes days after the government asserted it had found an online campaign that promoted a little-known ultra-nationalist who emerged as a frontrunner. So because the people voted for an ultra-nationalist right-wing person, the court has annulled a runoff election. You want to know why? They blame, wait for it, Russian interference. As if Russia gives a flip about Romania's elections. The frontrunner had been Talon Bezuidenhout, an ultranationalist whose victory in the first round stunned the country last month. Well, guess what? Romania is not a democracy either. Georgian opposition party leader has been arrested as protests enter the second week. Footage posted on social media shows officers raiding offices and hauling Coalition for Change leader Nika Gravremia away in a car. Not going well in Georgia, folks. Meanwhile, Russia has taken key villages in areas of the eastern Ukraine front. Russia said today that its forces have captured a village near the battle supply hub of Pokrovsk and another near the industrial town of Korokhova, gaining ground in two key areas of eastern Ukraine front. Brett Sessoms is here. How's it going? And Beth Fraser, hey guys, thanks for showing up on my mobile broadcast because Comcast has let me down again. Emmanuel Macron vows to remain as France grapples. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I got itch going on here. Someone must be talking about me. Isn't that what the wives' tale says? Is when you itch, someone's talking about you. Yeah, Macron vows to remain as France grapples with unprecedented turmoil. The French president will appoint a new prime minister in the coming days and has vowed to stay in the Élysée Palace for the duration of his term. Okay, we'll see how that goes for him. Thames Water receives £5 billion rescue package bid from Covalis and the Suez Partnership. Debt-laden Thames Water faces regulatory and environmental scrutiny over its financial stability and compliance with environmental standards. This is the main supplier of water in London. The proposal includes a $1 billion upfront and $4 billion from planned asset sales or refinancing within 2 to 3 years. UK's largest water utility, Thames Water, is more than 16 billion pounds in debt. It needs 3.3 billion in equity over the next 5 years. Wow. The firm's parent company, Kemble Water Holdings, pulled 500 million pounds in interest payments due the end of April as a result of the default on some of their debts. Wow. In July, water regulator Ofwat put Thames Water into special measures and rejected the company's request to increase consumers' water bills by 44% over the next 5 years. Thames Water sounds a lot like Rand Water. They want to raise your bills. Yep, the firm's financial pressures had them downgraded to junk rating status for their bonds. Wow. Thames Water is in trouble. It is Finland's National Day. And on behalf of the U.S. State Department, Winkin, Blinken, and Nod, our Secretary of State in the corrupt Biden regime, had the following message. On behalf of the United States, I extend heartfelt congratulations to people of Finland on the occasion of your 107th anniversary of independence. Finland is valued and enduring partner, and our relationship is grounded in shared principles of democracy, liberty, and the rule of law. It's thanks to these shared values that we continue to deepen our cooperation to meet today's global challenges. But the Helsinki Times is paying no attention to Finland National Day. These people have no patriotism whatsoever. Their top story on the Helsinki Times is fur farming should be allowed only if its pandemic risk is reduced. Really? And then the only story they carry on Finland National Day is about the Finnish far right. The Finnish far right could turn out in high numbers on Independence Day, police warn. Yeah. Thousands of protests are expected to descend on Helsinki for Independence Day, according to the police. Heikki Parola, Detective Chief Inspector of Helsinki Police Department, told the Finnish Public Broadcast Corporation late last month that the 612 Torch March is expected to draw 1,000 and a counter protest, roughly 2,000 protesters downtown Helsinki. And that's the extent of what they're saying about Finnish National Day. Yep, that's what they're saying. That's it. That's it. Wow. They're like the Canadians. They have no pride in their country, at least the people in charge. Speaking of Canada, Canada has banned 324 varieties of firearms. These firearms can no longer be used. The fascist government of Jussi Trudeau already banned 1,500 makes of firearms and models back in 2020, and that number grew to 2,000 by November this year. Now they're banning another 324. 2,324 different firearms are no longer legal in Canada, even though people have lawfully purchased them and have used them legally. Now this corrupt, fascist, socialist, totalitarian government of Jussi Trudeau is going to do what? Confiscate the firearms? They're talking about sending these firearms to Ukraine. They want to take your firearms that you bought legally as a lawful citizen and confiscate them and give them to the Ukraine. Wow. Defense Minister Bill Blair said Canada pro-Ukraine authorities expressed interest in some of the guns. Wow. So all the ones that are on the shelf at firearm sales manufacturers, are you going to confiscate those? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Canadians lost the plot a long time ago. Canada, UK, Ireland, gone, gone, gone. South Africa, gone. Well, the Department of Justice withheld critical intelligence on the Trump assassination attempt, according to lawmakers. This is after testimony by the acting director of the Secret Service, Ronald Rowe. Hashtag Ron Rowe must go. As Congressional Task Force investigating recent assassination attempts against President Trump held its final hearing yesterday, members noted they still had not received all relevant documents and testimony from federal law enforcement agencies. Revelation comes more than 2 weeks after the task force subpoenaed the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms for the testimony of 2 agents regarding the 13 July attempt on Trump's life. They also sought information about ATF's involvement in the aftermath of the September 15th assassination at the Palm Beach Golf Club. So they're stonewalling. Secret Service Director touts reforms. According to Acting Director Ron Rowe, the Secret Service is making changes. He said, one of the organizational changes, I've directed the Office of Protective Operations to initiate and stand up almost an auditing capability to regularly send out folks to evaluate how we're doing and also share findings with our Office of Training. So that's how he's going to reform their incompetence at Butler. He's going to have an office created that is responsible for doing the job of supervisors in the field. Really? Yeah. Another change he mentioned was the creation of a leadership development program aimed at identifying potential leaders outside the agency to take top posts within the service. Are you serious? So that's how you're going to fix things? That doesn't fix things now. Wow. Wow, this guy is a joke. Lawmaker accuses acting Secret Service director of 9/11 publicity stunt and auditioning to keep his post in a tense exchange. And it was a tense exchange. If you saw my video last night, it was a tense exchange. Yelling match erupted during congressional hearing Thursday on attempted assassination against President Trump, as one congressman accused acting Secret Service director Ronald Rowe of attending a 9/11 memorial event as part of a publicity stunt. The congressman, a Republican from Texas, accused Rowe of positioning himself in the area where the special agent in charge of Biden's detail would have been, so that he would be seen behind the president. Rowe is not expected to continue the role. Now, he's not going to continue through this week. He'll probably have to resign. Trump assassination attempt hearing goes off the rails, according to the New York Post, as shouting match erupts between acting Secret Service director and GOP representative. That's exactly what happened. This guy is in contempt. He ought to be sanctioned for his conduct. Well, Donald Trump is pushing for Pete Hegseth in a new Truth Social post. He said, Pete Hegseth is doing very well. His support is strong and deep, much more so than the fake news would have you believe. He's a great student, Princeton, Harvard educated with a military state of mind. He'll be fantastic, high-energy Secretary of Defense, one who leads with charisma and skill. Pete is a winner. There's nothing that can be done to change that. Says he's a retired Army major. I don't think he's a retired Army major. That's the first I heard of that. Anyway, but yeah, so, and how can you be retired as a major? You only retire as a major if you failed or you were previously enlisted for a long period of time. Trump taps hawkish former Senator David Perdue as ambassador to China. Well, once again, folks, while I vote enthusiastically for Trump, and a lot of people asking me, really suggesting, that someone put my name forward to be ambassador to South Africa, that's not going to happen. Only the incredibly rich and well-connected are getting positions in the Trump administration. Here's another example. Failed Senator David Perdue from Georgia. He and Kelly Loeffler in 2020 cost us the Senate. Their incompetence, their inability to win easy elections, one against a wife abuser, they just, Loeffler and Perdue both lost elections. Special election for her, an election for him. They both lost. Yeah, they both lost. It's absolutely a ridiculous nonsense here that both of them find a position in the Trump administration when they've cost this country dearly. They gave the Senate over to the Democrats, who quickly used it to undermine our nation and obliterate our foreign policy and open us up to all kinds of nonsense, not to mention the violation of the Constitution, the suspension of civil liberties by the corrupt Biden regime, in which it colluded, coerced, or cajoled tech firms to silence Americans, including me, and shut down our ability to communicate in violation of the First Amendment, using the likes of Twitter as a third-party agent to silence American speech. And that is a consequence of David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler losing easy elections they should have won in a conservative state. Yep. So, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. She's now going to be the director of the Small Business Administration, and he will be the ambassador to China, David Perdue, a failed senator. So we've got more wealthy people being picked for positions in the Trump administration. Trump is named, now here's a couple that aren't wealthy people that are actually capable of doing it. Not that wealthy people aren't capable of doing it, but you should get the position for more than just, your contributions to the campaign. Trump names hard-charging Border Patrol agent deportation officer in top immigration post. Yeah, so he's named Rodney Scott, a former chief of the Border Patrol and a severe critic of the Biden team, to be the head of the Customs and Border Protection. He tapped Caleb Vitello, a longtime deportation officer, to run U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement. So there you go. These are good choices. He also picked a strange one here, and this is former Congressman Billy Long has been picked to run the Internal Revenue Service. This is a guy that's been encouraging people to take advantage of what has become a boondoggle scam to defraud the American taxpayer. So now my hip's fine, Dylan. The fiscal cost of the tax refund bonanza was steep. An analyst had predicted that it would cost $55 billion to compensate businesses that kept people on the payroll, even though they weren't working during the pandemic. But it has already ballooned to $230 billion, with projections it could cost $550 billion to the fiscus. Yet this guy, Mr. Long, Billy Long, is a proponent for that, telling people how to take advantage of it. Well, good news for the Biden regime, a bit late, albeit a bit late. Employers added 227,000 jobs in November, recovery from previous month. That's actually a pretty good gain for November, 227,000 jobs. Well, like being on vacation, federal employees apparently don't even go into work. They're abusing remote work centers audit fines. Joni Ernst, a Republican from Iowa, has found out that just 6% of federal workers are showing up in person for a full day's work every day. 1/3 are remote employees, and they're often soaking colleagues and taxpayers with their on-the-job antics. One Social Security employee ran his side business while he was supposed to be doing telework. Ms. Aaron said an employee had his mother and his wife access a Social Security computer system to record time on duty and cover for the fact that he was running his business. Wow. A housing and urban development employee drank and drove during the workday and got paid for the time she spent in Oklahoma jail for drunk driving. She said one agricultural department employee told her colleagues saw working from home as like being on vacation. Very little work was assigned, and all they had to do was be available by phone. Wow. The no-shows have emptied out federal office buildings, leaving the government to ponder what to do with vacant offices. Officials have justified the decisions by saying they want to be prepared in case the workers come back. That's why they're keeping offices open. It's costing us a fortune. Wow. Unbelievable. One soldier who worked on Black Hawk helicopters for the Army spent years trying to schedule appointments. When he finally got a therapist, she spent the appointment singing the praises of remote work and her cat draped around her neck. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, so these people aren't even show up for work. Well, I wanted to show you a picture of Rockefeller Center's Christmas tree, which is not lit. So unfortunately, I can't do that because of Comcast, bastards. Anyway, so there's Bob in here saying you can't say Jewish. Well, of course you can say Jewish. You can say Jewish, but you can't be dishonest. These issues will be cleaned up. Their setups and appointments that will be very different by the end of the first quarter. I hope you're right about that. Yeah, I know, Shawnee. The Christmas tree is beautiful. So, yeah. Please keep, what's this? Chimney Rock? Popular? What's that? Wow, I really can't read that text. It's so close. World isn't the same as it should be. Yeah. Bob said, that's cool. Why did every single person that Orange Man Bad hired was Jew? No, that's a lie. That's a lie. See, that comment's gonna be deleted because you're just being a clown. Bob, they're not. Pete Hegseth is not Jewish. Kelly Loeffler's not Jewish. Gabriel Perdue's not Jewish. Tom Homan's not Jewish. It's not facts. It's bullshit. All right, just block the guy. Block America. He's going to be an ass. We don't need this troll. We don't need anti-Semitic trolls here. Yeah, anyway, so just block him. Look it up. You're a fuckwad. You look it up. I just gave you half a dozen names, and none of them are, yeah. They're not blocking fact, blocking assholes. But using a timeout. There you go. Now you can shut your mouth for 10 minutes. Anyway, and Pablo Charlie, you're not helping with your stupid comment there. I don't appreciate that either. You know, you fucking know that I'm on my mobile. Stop being an ass. Yeah. Anyway, you see, when I go on my phone, the algorithm treats the phone differently. And so other people find the stream. And so we get bigots like that show up. You were given plenty of chances to contribute to the conversation, but instead you just want to be an ass. Hey, Mike, how's it going? No, Bob's not trolling. He's on a timeout. He can wait 10 minutes to do his wanking, and then he can come back if he wants to act like an adult. But he's not going to be an adult, and he can piss off. We don't play that game here. We don't play that bullshit. Well, this phone's actually got a charge in it. I'm surprised. I haven't charged that in ages. I'm sure the other one's dead. My South African mobile. Oh, yeah, it's dead. All right, let me charge the South African mobile so I've got some juice in that. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, that other one, they charge the same time. It holds charge much better. Anyway, spicy broadcast. Because they're self-loathing losers who've never accomplished anything in their life, Charles. That's why they do it. This is how they get their jollies. What they try to do is they try to get content creators in a conversation, and they try to. We learned this over the years. I've been doing this for a while now. Try to get content conversation, you know. But I'm a very generous person. I allow people a chance to make a mistake, you know, and come back. Nobody in particular. You're going to come and celebrate Blood River. I've already been there. Numerous times, nobody in particular. I'm not planning on it. Are you going to be there? Are you going? It's in the middle of frickin' nowhere. Really, really in the middle of nowhere. My last visit, it was brutal getting out there. Um, yeah, well, it was better than going to Rorke's Drift. Rorke's Drift, the road is a mess. Oh my goodness. No, I didn't forget the Advents calendar, Garrett. I did it at the beginning. You tuned in late, brother. You tuned in late. I did the calendar. I did the calendar all over here. Here's the tea that came out today. It's vanilla chai black tea. That's what came out. So the internet computer should resolve next week. Got to have your quality news. Well, thank you for that, Shawnee. I don't need it next week resolved. I need it for tomorrow. I can't be doing rugby broadcasts now. This BS going on. Yeah, make it a thing to go. It touches the soul when being on the 16th. No, I got you. I got you. Nobody in particular. Yeah, it's a fascinating spot. Unfortunately, the Zulu side is not being maintained. My last time I was there in what was I there? January or February of 2023, I think I was there. I went there and there was no one there. They just left the place. No one was working there. It was in disrepair. It was falling apart. The season never ends, Shawnee. So we just finished the fall test season for the national sides. Now we've got the United Rugby Championship season plus Premier Rugby plus Pro 14. Those are European leagues. They continue now until the spring, our spring. And then we have Major League Rugby, which starts in late January or February. That goes until the summertime. And we got National Test again. We got Curry Cup in South Africa. So rugby is a year-round event. Yep, there's no blueberry tea sounds good. There's no really season to it. It is year-round. Yep, that's one of the problems. A lot of players play in multiple leagues and multiple games because they don't make much pay, and they raise their risk of being injured. So yeah. So if you're a rugby aficionado, I could go look at my rugby channel, which I'm not on right now. In fact, I can see that. I mean, I've had games pretty much almost every weekend for ages. The Zulu side used it as a booze party. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Nobody in particular. You gave a yellow card with review. Looks like excited for upcoming. Yes, I did give. No, there's no review, Neville. Bob Laidlaw got a yellow card. Got a 10-minute yellow card sin bin violation. And if Bob wants to come back and be an adult and stop playing games, I mean, the guy's just playing games. I mean, facts. Everybody he picks is Jewish. It's just a lie. It's just a lie. So if I wound up in the Trump administration, he's going to continue that nonsense because my name is under consideration. So does that mean all Jews? Oh, piss off, man. Not a Jew. I didn't give Pablo a red card. Pablo, you've never gotten a red card. Red card means you're out. You're blocked. Yeah, that's right, Maryland. Yellow card. Yeah, no, Charles, the lack of respect on the Zulu side is very disappointing, particularly after the Fellowship Bridge or whatever they want to call it was built. It's a nice little bridge, goes across the Nkome River, which is really just a creek. That's not a river at that stage, but they like to call it a river. Yeah, Blood River. It's really a creek, but it's pretty deep and fast, but it's not very wide. So yeah, I've not been out there. So that was actually the first time I've been there in quite some time when I went there. I put a number of videos up, which almost nobody watched, telling the history of the Battle of Blood River. An amazing thing. You know, the Trek Boers and the Zulu were both itching for a fight. They were both looking for each other, both looking. And the Trek Boers kind of picked the ground upon which the battle would be fought. And it was a brilliant decision, putting their wagons in a circle in a laager and then setting them. You need to get a red card, and you mean so I can. That's what I should do is get a red card and yellow card, and we just put up on the screen for people misbehaving. Bob Laidlaw, if you're still here, your yellow card will expire, and you can hang around. We'll let you come back, but stop lying. Surprising the people on the left and right support Doge. Not really, Dave. I'm not surprised at all. People are upset about just how corrupt the government is. I mean, now that it's becoming apparent. I mean, I haven't worked. Excuse me, in the government since before COVID. I retired in October 2019 from the Army. And so I didn't see on a daily basis what was going on. But I do go twice a year in to do consulting at the War College. And over the past 4 years, the scarcity of people at even a military installation is a bit shocking to me. A lot of people just not there. And I'm like, where the hell are they at? Well, they're working from home. How can you work from home? You're teaching. It's ridiculous. Yeah, they were excellent defense, not great at attack. Yep. Well, to any South African who has not been, you owe it to yourself to go and experience 16th December. The event. I've never been on 16th December. No, never been on Geloftedag. Never been there for Geloftedag, but I have been to the site. And it would be great to go on that day. I think that our friend, the singing cowboy there, actually went there. It ain't easy to kill a boar. Yeah, I think he went on 16th December. It would be interesting to go on that day, but I've been there when, as a historian, it's actually better and more beneficial for me to be there by myself so I can walk around the battlefield and actually analyze it and discuss it. The history of Coatfoot. Rhodesian SAS trained. Yeah, no, no. Yeah, they did. They did. Yeah, they did. They played a role. So, but the Coatfoot crowbar has quite the a nasty reputation. Whether it's earned or not is another story. But yeah, so anyway, Geloftedag is just around the corner, folks. We just had Rhodesia Day, um, and um, and Geloftedag is the 16th of December. So send me the money to get there, says Dylan. Oh yeah, but it's not suspended. A yellow card just puts you out for a few minutes. I went there in the '70s, in particular, when it was still primary school. Oh, it must have been cool back then. It's more than just battle for the site of a true miracle. Well, nobody in particular. It depends on how you view that. People of deep faith view it as the reason for the covenant and the pact. Yeah, yeah, I know. It had no buffering last night. The buffering is occurring the same time 3 days this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at the same time at buffering. How many Trump appointments will get through? I think most will get through. I think most will get through. Yeah, Shawnee, you're making a very good point there. So those of deep faith consider, particularly South Africans, that the Geloof the Dag, the day of the vow, the day that a covenant was made with God to deliver them, was divine intervention. While that may be true, I'm inclined not to believe that. I don't believe that a deity actually intervenes in a fashion like that. He allows things to play out. And so, as far as it truly being a miracle, it absolutely was a miracle. 20,000 Zulu descend on 400 truck bores in a lager, completely encircled. But the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, that the attack pattern by the Zulu was pretty stupid in many respects, as it tended to be in many situations. They've had brilliant attacks with their horns of the bull sort of thing to suck people in. But people who are wise to that wouldn't get sucked in and would simply retreat and make the Zulu follow, and they'd pick them off. But yeah, no, the decision to wade across the Nkome River and get trapped in the reeds was dumb indeed, and they died by the hundreds. My brother-in-law served with the police anti-terrorist unit. Okay, Neville, interesting. No, nobody in particular. I never had deep faith until I went there and experienced the event with like-minded family. You know, I understand that. Nobody in particular. Yep. No, I understand that. That's cool. What is this? Now you get my point. Boers only. I have no idea what you're talking about there, Garrett. No idea what you're talking about there. Anyway, but yeah, that's a big day coming up. So for some South Africans, not for not all South Africans, but for some South Africans, it's a very big day indeed. I was going through my wallet the other day. I actually found I had a little bit more money, and I realized. Okay, cool. A little bit more cash on hand than I thought I had for the coming crisis. Anyway, yeah. So, Battle for Blood River has some interesting explanation. The Zulus killed more of their own men when they retreated than the Boers did. Yeah, that's an aspect that I've not been able to find reliable sources about, Charles, talking about that. Yep. 4K versus 200. Huh? I don't know, Mike. You talking about the Blood River? No, it was not. No. It wasn't 4,000. It was 400. 400 versus 20,000. Mike, 400 versus 20,000. Yeah. These guys were firing their rifles so frequently, the barrels were on the verge of melting down in some cases. So hot. They had a couple little cannons, short-range cannons they used, which played a role too in taking out a lot of the Zulu. But it was an epic battle. But the myth about because there was a myth spread for some time, which was simply not true, that the Trek Boers were being ambushed there. No, they were in search of a fight, and so were the Zulu. They both wanted a decisive battle, and the Trek Boers got a decisive battle. It was revenge for Pete Retief. It was revenge for Pete Retief. Yep. Nothing better than found money. That's true, Mike. Yeah, well, it's money I had, but I'd forgotten I had it, and I put it in one place, and I'm like, ooh, looky there, looky there, looky there. So, who's expecting cake? Somebody's birth. Oh, I saw somebody had an anniversary. I missed that. My birthday's the day after. Okay, so there's the 17th. I didn't realize that. Okay. Somebody's kids had a anniversary. Oh, there's Marilyn says my son and daughter-in-law's 16th anniversary. Oh, today. Well, congratulations to your son and daughter-in-law. Hang on, make sure I get that right, Marilyn. Marilyn, come on, where's that? Your son and your daughter-in-law. Happy anniversary to them. That incident that the U.S. national anthem was based on, in my view, was a miracle. Don't you think? Dave, I'm not sure what you're talking about. The U.S. national anthem is a consequence of Francis Scott Key, a lawyer from Maryland, from Frederick, Maryland, who was representing a client who was unlawfully detained on a British warship. He went to the British warship to negotiate for his release, and he had to stay there overnight as a consequence of the battle. The Brits fired at Fort McHenry, and hence the bombardment, which was intense but not epic. Fort McHenry survived, mostly because the British gunners were pretty poor. So I'm not sure what incident you're talking about. That's where the national anthem came from. It's Francis Scott Key, Star Spangled Banner. "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light." In other words, here it is morning. Yeah. So proudly our flag flew. Yep. And the flag was still there. I think the battle, some people overstate the battle. It was a big battle. I mean, I've been to Fort McHenry. It's a cool sight, particularly from the air, not so much from the ground. But it's the poem is epic. So I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, I'm a very patriotic person, but I don't really get that excited about that battle. Yeah, Charles. No, the Nkome River is, like I said, more like a creek, but it's deep and it's fast and it's difficult to traverse, and guys drown. And plus, there's heavy reeds on the west side of the creek, and even to this day, it's the banks there are muddy underneath, and I think it probably slopes where it comes down, whereas the other side it's a harsh bank like this, and so you drop down in. I believe that'd be the case, having visited and looked at it. I've not actually gone to the creek. I'm not going to do that. But it looks like there's reed banks on that side. And the reed banks, of course, have deep mud in them. And when the Zulu warriors tried to cross the creek, even if they got across the fast-flowing current, they got stuck in the reeds. Now, that much we know from history. And that's why the name Blood River. Hundreds of them were slaughtered there as they were stuck in the mud. And they were shot and killed, or they drowned. And the river just filled up with blood. Yep. Oh boy, yeah, that's so they correct. The banks are steep, and at some points a sheer wall. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you're right about that. At some points, it's 10 feet. So getting up out there was the dumb decision. Yeah, never bring a knife to a gunfight. Never bring an assegai to a rifle fight. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Well, it wasn't embellished, Dave. I mean, I'm just saying I'm not inspired in the same fashion that you apparently are inspired. It's not embellished. I mean, I never said that. Well, let me look up the Battle of Fort McHenry. Battle of Fort McHenry. See what they've got to say about it. No, it's not embellished. Shoot, hang on. Sorry, you got my face up close because I can't move the camera. All right, September 13th to 14th, 1814. Okay, the failed bombardment forced the British to abandon their land assault. The failed bombardment of Fort McHenry forced the British to abandon their land assault at the crucial port city of Baltimore. This British defeat was a turning point in the War of 1812, leading both sides to reach a peace agreement later that year. United States victory, American forces resisted a dramatic British bombardment of Fort McHenry, proved they could stand up to a great world power. The exploding shells and rocket fire from British warships inspired Francis Scott Key to pen the lyrics of the Star Spangled Banner. Seeing no way to penetrate the American defenses, the British withdrew their troops and gave up their Chesapeake campaign. Yep. Initially, their strategy in the War of 1812 had been defensive, the British. They were more concerned about defeating Napoleon in Europe than fighting a minor war with the United States. That changed on April 6, 1814, with the defeat and abdication of Napoleon, which freed up veteran troops for more aggressive strategy. Major General Robert Ross was sent to command all British forces on the east coast of the United States, with Vice Admiral Alexander Cochrane leading the fleet of warships. Encouraged by the victory at Bladensburg in Maryland on August 24th, the subsequent burning of Washington, D.C., and the British turned north with the intent of capturing Baltimore. Militarily, Baltimore is a far more important city than Washington because of its thriving port and strategic location. The British hoped the loss of both Washington and Baltimore would cripple the American war effort and force peace. However, the citizens and militia of Baltimore had been preparing for an assault for more than a year. The imposing Fort McHenry at the mouth of the Inner Harbor provided a linchpin for their defenses. There was a battle of North Point, and the Americans won that. That was on the other side of the peninsula. The British landed a combined force of soldiers, sailors, and Royal Marines at North Point, the peninsula at the fork of the Patapsco River in the Chesapeake Bay on September 12th. After the landing was unopposed, they advanced toward Baltimore. The Maryland Militia Commander, Major General Samuel Smith, ordered Brigadier General John Stickler to delay the advance by provoking an engagement, so a meeting engagement. Around midday, while the British halted for a meal, Stickler ordered 250 riflemen and cannon to draw the British toward his forces. Ross, hearing the skirmishing, rode forward to assess the situation. While ordering his men to drive off the American riflemen, he was shot in the chest and died a few hours later. Command of land forces passed to Colonel Arthur Brooke. Brooke collected the main body of British troops and pressed forward. At around 3 p.m., he attacked the American positions. The American defenders held initially, inflicting heavy casualties and resorting to firing scrap metal from their cannon because they had a lack of canister. Despite a stalwart initial defense, the Americans began to give way to the British regulars. The Americans withdrew to Baltimore, and Brooke halted for the rest of the day to consolidate his forces. That delay gave the American defenders in Baltimore time to bolster defenses. Yep. So, 28 Americans, 4 were killed, 24 wounded. No casualties for the United Kingdom, really? And 1 wounded. The failed bombardment forced Brooke to abandon the land assault. American lawyer Francis Scott Key, who held on a British warship for a prisoner negotiation during the frightening siege, feared that the fort would succumb to the bombardment. But when he saw the large flag flying over the fort in the morning of September 14th, he wrote the defense of Fort McHenry, which was later set to tune to Akronon in Heaven and renamed the Star Spangled Banner, officially becoming the national anthem of the United States in 1931. Yep, there you go. There you go. So that's the story of the bombardment of Fort McHenry. So Lewis couldn't swim. Yeah, well, poor judgment. Yep. Okay. Listening to a few Democratic representatives today, I don't think they're against Trump's incoming policies, just can't accept their loss. That's their problem. Yep. They can't accept their loss. Chantel Beard tickles. Yep. Rifles were black powder versus spears. To witness the demonstration on site gives one huge respect for what was pulled off. Oh, yeah. Nobody in particular. I got you. Is there not a donga that leads to the lager? Yes. Yep. It had a cannon pointing down. Yep. Very interesting, says Charles. Chris, you know the Portuguese landed maybe way before Germans colonized it again. The true natives were the Bushmen. Yeah, the Portuguese landed in Namibia. They landed in Angola. They landed in South Africa on each shore, the western shore. In Cape Town, they landed. They got in a fight with some Khoi who smacked them, and then they never made a permanent settlement. It was only the Dutch who finally settled there permanently in 1652. Anyway. All right. Well, I've done my hour and a half now, and I need to call these clowns and find out why my internet keeps dropping off like that. So thanks to everybody that's been here. I appreciate it. We didn't get the big audience we normally get because people aren't finding it and didn't listen when I said I was going to my mobile, or maybe they don't like it off the mobile. But thank you to those who've been here, to the 47 likes, for the 43 people currently here. I think the peak was 50 or 53. Appreciate you tuning in and your patience while I did this off my mobile device. Have a lovely day. God bless. Merry Christmas to you. And once again, I'm wearing Boise State kit for the Boise State Broncos, I think they are, in support of the women's volleyball team who have stood up for women against a biological male playing them. So they forfeited their semifinal for the NCAA championship and didn't win the volleyball title because they refused to play against a biological male. Well done to the women of Boise State. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll catch you later. God bless and have a good day. Yeah, I'm sorry about the internet provider too. Appreciate it. Well, thank you to everybody in particular. I'll try to keep up the good work. I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow on Rugby Ascendant for the European Professional Club Rugby Championship, EPCR Championship or Championship Cup, and then that's 3 games tomorrow. The Sharks at 8 o'clock my time. Then it's the Stormers. Then it's the Bulls. 3 games back to back to back. And then on Sunday we've got the Cheetahs and the Lions. Cheers, everybody. Have a good day. Thanks.